The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
I'm going to go AFK for like 5 minutes. I'll be back.
Great.
I'm back. I'm going to mute myself again. If you need me to do anything or have any questions, I can hear you.
All right. Thanks a lot. Hello, I see the captioner is here, and Sharon and Dr. Engelman, thank you all. I'm just going to mute myself again. We're just waiting for hopefully some committee members to show up. Thanks. For those of you just joining, I can see you, and for the committee members, I'm making you panelists as you join in. So hopefully you should be able to talk and use your microphone. Thanks for being here.
Also, please mute yourself if you're not going to be chatting.
Oh, sorry.
Hello.
Hi there. Just let me add a couple of people just joining the meeting as panelists, and we're just a few minutes away.
Cool.
Hi, Wade. This is Allison. Can you hear me?
Yes, Allison, I sure can.
Okay, great. I can put myself on mute. When you get started, can you put the presentation in presentation mode? I'll be right back. And I don't know if my camera's on. I can't see myself.
I can't see you, Allison. Yes, of course, I will put it in presentation mode. Thank you, but now I can see you. But you're muted.
I will be right back.
Great.
That was funny.
Hey, John, how are you?
I'm okay.
Great. Thanks for being here.
The first time I've ever got this thing to work.
Well,
My son, it's an old tablet.
no time like the present, I guess.
Yep.
There's Alex. Hey, Jamie.
Oh, I was muted, I think. Does that work now?
Yeah, works great.
Okay.
Once we get started, I'll ask everybody to mute themselves, or I think I can mute everybody and just unmute the presenter, just so it'll be a little easier to hear.
Hey, Wade, this is Beth.
Hi, Beth.
Hey, did you make me a panelist after I joined?
I did.
Would you look at that?
It works pretty well.
This is Jim Shirk. I can't get any audio. Can you give me some help? Obviously, don't tell me over the phone, but type something up.
Yes, let me get the chat box open here.
So Wade, I'm going to stay off of video, because it's telling me that there's not enough space for that many video spots. So I'll just turn it off for now.
That's certainly fine, Allison. Thank you. And anybody else
Oh, there it is. Okay.
is welcome to do the same.
Okay. All
I
right.
turned off. Can you hear me? I turned off my video. This is Richard Rank.
Yes, Richard, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Great. Hello.
This is Diana
Okay.
Ramirez. Well, you guys hear me? Hello.
Hello, can you
Hello?
hear us?
Um, can you hear me?
Yes. Oh, we can see Jim's computer.
Hello, Emily.
Hi.
Great, we can hear you fine, so that'll be perfect for presenting.
Great. Thank you.
Who was having problems hearing or broadcasting their audio?
Chris, that appears to be Jim Shirk and Diana Ramirez. All right. Sorry, I muted everybody because there was a lot of interference, but can everybody hear me? You would have to unmute yourself to say yes.
Yes.
All right, great. Thank you. Okay, well, we are still missing our chair for one. Jim, can you hear me?
I messaged Jim, and he has yet to message me back, so I'm not sure what's going on, if he can hear us or not.
Okay, I think I just sent him an audio pin, so hopefully that'll help. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, he can always just call in if his computer audio is not working.
Yes. Oh, there's Jonathan. Let me make him a panelist, and hopefully we'll be good to go. Jonathan, can you hear me? Let me unmute you real quick. Oh, Jonathan, it looks like you don't have an audio source. I don't know if you're able to use the call-in. Hello, Sally. Can you hear us? Hi, Beth. Yes, 1 second. Okay, can anybody unmute themselves? Is anybody able to?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Sally.
Hi, Sally. I sure can.
I just unmuted myself.
Fantastic. Oh, there's Jonathan. Let me make panelists. Yeah. Jonathan, I think we have you online now. Are you there? Jonathan, it says you're muted, self-muted that is. I don't know if you're able to undo it or not.
I should be unmuted now.
All right, there you are, sir. Thank you for...
Hey, how are you? All righty.
Very well.
And it's good to, first of all, it's good to see everybody, first of all, too.
I can't see everybody. What am I doing wrong?
Are you booting up still in the boot up process?
I don't think I'm in the boot up process. I see me and Wade and Adele for Jim Shirk, Ruth Alden, Allison, William Sapper. That's it.
Yes, there's a limit to the number of people who can be seen on the video stream, so you're only going to be at 5 or 6. Yep.
And is there supposed to be the agenda or something on the bottom that says FY 2021, FY 22 Unified Plan Working Program, or is that not supposed to be there?
That is the first presentation, so we will be getting to that momentarily.
Good.
Jonathan, I think you can kick it off if you like. I know we have one public comment from Dr. Engelman. He is on the line, and I had posted some public comments that had been sent to all the committees by Christopher Vila. Those are on the calendar page for this meeting. If anybody would like to read them, he has quite a bit of analysis there related to TV Next. But I have some items from Mr. Engelman. But once you call it to order, we can see if we can unmute him and let him talk through his public.
Alrighty, so thank you, Wade. So good evening, everybody. I guess we'll go ahead and call to order our BPAC meeting. I'm not quite sure if we have a quorum yet for any action items or approval of minutes. But we can start going through the agenda nonetheless here. As I said earlier, it's nice to see everyone being safe in place, and we're using the technology that we have available to us here. So with that in order, our first thing is public comment, and we do have one individual. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And we do for a quorum as well.
Okay.
So get Mr. Engelman's items up. And I will unmute him in just a moment.
All right, we will, and we are still sticking with the 3-minute option here.
Yes, can everybody see that? That's the beginning, and I am going to see if I can unmute Mr. Engelman now.
Wade, how do we know who's here?
Do you have I'm not sure what you call it, but I have something that says audience view, sharing, webcam, audio on the right side of my screen. And there is a list of attendees about the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th, 6th item down. Are you able to see that?
View in full screen mode. Click to unread chat message. Oh, attendees 36 of 101. Is that correct?
Yes, click that little arrow that's pointing to the right, and you should be able to see everybody.
It's okay. But you have to cursor up and down.
Yes, you'll have to do that.
Okay.
Just 1 second. I'm working on Mr. Engelman. I was letting Mr. Horst welcome. We see you. And Mr. Engelman, you should be unmuted now. Dr. Engelman, rather, excuse me.
Thank you, Wade, and thank you, committee members, for making time and welcoming.
me. I just want to mention, Wade, that it looks like Chris Vela also wanted to provide audio comments as well from the chat log here. So I don't know if you want to make that available too.
We'll go to him next.
Okay, great. So again, thank you for making time, and thank you for the public service that you provide to our community. As you all know, there's been now yet another pedestrian bicyclist death on Bayshore Boulevard, the fourth in under 2 years. And I come before you today to make some requests for immediate participation with the city and long-term redesign planning. I am a resident of Bayshore. I have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old that walk Bayshore every day. I've got a 1-month-old who one of these days will also walk Bayshore, God willing. And it's probably the greatest threat to their lives as I see it currently. I and some colleagues of mine, after the deaths of Jessica and Lilia 2 years ago, started an online advocacy group that garnered now over 8,500 signatories on a change.org petition to make Bayshore safe. And there are some tenets to that website. The link is in the reference section of the document that you can see. My specific requests to the MPO as a whole and to this group are to add Bayshore Boulevard to the list of dangerous streets for the speed management study. I recognize that Bayshore is not our community's most dangerous street, not by far, but I think it provides a unique opportunity for this body and for the MPO and county leaders as a whole to send the message on this very public and very visible topic that driver behaviors need to change, and that you are committed to Vision Zero principles. The city of Tampa has some plans in place, and I think more will be forthcoming in the next few weeks. My understanding in speaking to them yesterday and today, is that they intend to install temporary traffic control devices, speed lights at Rome and Bayshore and Euclid and Bayshore. And I would ask for you, as an immediate action, to partner with them to help fund the installation, given that it's a county road and a partnership road. In the intermediate sense, I think that Bayshore needs to potentially be reclassified. It's currently a major traffic arterial, and I think that that doesn't do justice to the fact that it is a residential street and a public park. And I think it can serve many different goals. It still carry large volumes of weekday rush hour traffic, but I think that it needs a more protected designation so that alternative uses and treatments can be considered in the future. And I think in future thinking, I think that you, the city of Tampa, we all need to be considering long-term redesign of Bayshore Boulevard. The current identity of a fatal four-lane divided highway is not in keeping with what this natural resource should be and could be. And I think that the city needs to commission design, the MPO needs to commission design. There needs to be a partnership where we work together to design and fund structural change and usage change to that street as an icon of our community and as a way to signal to areas throughout our county that the intersection of driver and pedestrian interests does not have to be at conflict, that everyone can win as long as we are mindful of our behaviors and mindful in design opportunities. So I'll let you read the full document. I'm available for any questions. I thank you again for your advocacy. And I would remember that Jessica and Lilia were guests in our home 2 years ago, and we let them die. And George Gage was out for a walk, and he died. And Hal Flowers was in a crosswalk, and he died. And this happens all around our city, but this is a public park. This is an icon of our community. This is contributing to our deteriorating identity in the nation and contributing to our rank as #2 in terms of pedestrian deaths per capita. this is a landmark opportunity, a very public and visible opportunity to send a message throughout our community. So I would ask for action as detailed in the document that you have.
All righty.
Hi,
Thank you, sir.
hi, this is Jim Shirk. Can you hear me?
Hey, Jim. Yep, I can.
Okay. Hi. May I add some comments to what we just heard and quite approve of?
Yes, Mr. Shirk, go ahead.
Okay. First of all, people, no matter their other conditions, need and require outdoor exercise just to keep from going stir crazy. Anybody, I mean, living with the doors closed and not looking out is like being in solitary, maybe with a roommate. Second, dictating social distancing only works if there's room to spread out. The solution to this is to provide more space. And I just wanted to mention that the vehicle mileage traveled in Hillsborough County as of yesterday or 5 days ago was 67% reduced from January. That frees up a lot of space. Even if it doesn't become a permanent solution, I'd love to see the mayor close northbound Bayshore and let people spread out and avoid becoming too crowded. Anyway, that was my 10 cents. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jim. I think, Wade, we have someone listening in, Christopher Vela, who has asked for public comment as well.
Yes, sir. And Chris, I don't know if you can hear, but I'm looking at your name on here, and I sent you an audio pin. It says until you enter that pin, I cannot unmute you. So if you're able to enter that pin, and if it takes a couple of minutes, we can always come back to public comment if that's okay.
Well, why don't we go ahead and come back to him if we can. And we can continue through the agenda here. I know we wanted to kind of go over any kind of approval of the minutes, and I know, Wade, I think you outlined the best way to handle this from a voting perspective.
Yes, sir. If we can just note any objections, and otherwise, if we're going to approve anything, we can note any objections, and that will go along sort of as our normal recommendation to the board. So any objections and comments that we have on the UPWP, we can still include to go to the board.
Okay, so I'll ask, are there any changes or objections to the comments or a summary of the minutes that were recorded from last month?
No.
I think Sally, you may need to unmute yourself up there, Sally.
I'm unmuted.
Now you are. Yep.
Okay, I wanted to say something after that last gentleman, if it was appropriate, but I couldn't find myself.
Apologies, Sally. If you wouldn't mind, if I think we can have a wider discussion during members' interests on Bayshore.
That's absolutely fine. I just wanted to make sure I just wanted to get unmuted.
Sorry about that. And if anybody is unable to get unmuted, please let me know.
How do we do that? Wade, how do we let you know?
Yes, there is a place on the right to put in comments that will come to me.
Okay, that's what I was starting to do. Okay, fine.
I should be able to see them.
The other thing too is, are we able to get copies of that letter?
Yes, and
because I couldn't get it to do anything on my screen.
No, you will just be able to view the screen. Sorry, I was the one scrolling it down as as people came in. Let me just, before we go on to the minutes, Mr. Vila has said that he is available in the chat. Sorry, I'm doing a few things there. And Chris, It says you're self-muted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, I appreciate you accommodating me. I'll be brief. So you guys probably been watching Tiger King lately, right? And Oklahoma City originally had an elevated roadway that went through their city, and they dismantled that roadway and actually created a boulevard with that. Why am I bringing this up today is because in the packet that will be presented as priority projects, you will see that the boulevard project will be in that. So I'm hoping that this board moves forward in supporting removing I-275 and creating a boulevard and having that study being as a phase study, because we know that it is expensive, but I don't want the price tag to hold us up and put it on the chopping block. I'd rather it move forward. Now, going over to the comments about Bayshore, I 100% agree that we need to look at a lane reduction effort on that.
Sales tax.
And I was hearing some talking, but I wanted to say this quick quote here. And this is very pertinent. I think this needs to be explained over to the mayor and some other leaders. Managing public space is not the same as crowd control at a mass event. So when we're talking about public space and the constraints that we have right now during this pandemic, we know that there are a lot of complaints about the Riverwalk being too tight, sometimes Bayshore being too tight. So the solution here is to provide more recreational space for people. And we know that parks are closed right now. And so a lot of the familiar places that people go, they require more space. So I think if we can change the mindset of how we approach this matter and put a priority as to the welfare of the people, health-wise and mental-wise through this ordeal, we need to change the way how we approach this issue. And lastly, as was mentioned, I did submit a packet opposing the 14th and 15th Street exits. Please read that. We've had a pedestrian death at Columbus, Nebraska. There was a crash in front of the Children's Board last year. And we also had, I believe, 2 pedestrian deaths on Nebraska and Dr. King. All of these areas are very close to the interstate system, and we just need to look at how large road systems impact the local streets. One last thing too, Thea is going to do some improvements on Twig Street and also Nebraska. I oppose those because what Thea wants to do is to expand those roadways and make them bigger. That's going to impact the cycle track that you all approve on Jackson Street and the bike box. That's going to do lane widening on Twig Street. We cannot see any more cars or address these bottlenecks on road systems that are not under our jurisdiction. We have to advocate for the safety of local users on our streets, serving our downtown and places like Bayshore and company towns like Ybor City. So that's my comment. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Mr. English, for those comments. And I'm sorry?
Chris English and a Chris Bella.
It's Bella.
Oh, well, we have 2 Christophers. My apologies. We have Christopher Bella and Christopher English here that also, I think, had some comments.
I would note that Mr. Bella's comments and report are all on the calendar item on our website for today. So please do take a look at that. I currently have it up on the screen here. But that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All righty, and we took care of everything in the chat room here. Are these comments going to be recorded in the chat room as well, Wade?
Yes, the entire meeting I think is recordable. I'm not sure about the comments in the chat room.
Okay. All right. Well, moving on here. If we can get back to the approval of the minutes, I would ask if anyone has any objections to those minutes to advise accordingly. Otherwise, we'll consider them approved. All right, seeing none objections, Next part of our agenda is members' interest. This is a time where if anyone has any activities that is pertinent to their area of representation, to go ahead and you can spend some time talking about those. Just ask you kind of limit that conversation to just a few minutes if that's possible. All right, hearing none here. If we could move into our action items here, and the first one is the fiscal year.
Sally,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Sally, if you did want to discuss more this member's interest time or old and new business. Yes, Sally, let me unmute you. All right, Sally, you're unmuted.
Okay, I'm unmuted. I didn't know whether we'd be discussing Bayshore, but I live right off Bayshore, and you know, I've been hearing a lot of things and a lot of suggestions. I saw the articles in the paper, the mayor's that indicated that the mayor's not going to make any changes at this point. A friend told me that tomorrow on WMNF at 11 a.m., Rob Lorai is going to be interviewing the mayor. So if anybody wants to call and make a suggestion at that time, that would probably be a way to reach her. There are petitions going around and other kinds of things. I don't know that, you know, I don't know what action we would take, because we didn't take action a couple of months ago. And I'm not sure what we can do relative to the doctor that just spoke, but some of his ideas were pretty good. I don't know what we could do at this point in an interim type thing. I can tell you that Rome Avenue and Euclid are areas that might warrant traffic lights. So I don't, you know, do we want to discuss this, or what do we want to do?
Well, I think, go ahead, Wade. Or is that me giving feedback? I think we had that as part of our members' interest here. If we want to raise it under new business, we can raise it under new business at that time if any motion activity needed to occur.
Okay.
Okay.
Fine.
All righty. So moving on to our action items here. The first thing up, we have Allison with fiscal year 21, fiscal year 22 Unified Planning Work Program.
So good evening, everyone. Let me know if you can't hear me.
You're good.
The item okay, great. Oh, wait, could you go back to the first slide? Thank you. The item you have before you today is the fiscal year 21-22 Unified Planning Work Program, and that's essentially the program of projects and budget for the next 2 fiscal years for the MPO. Next slide, please. Oh, do I have control? No, I don't. Okay. The document is effective July 1st, 2020. July 1st is the beginning of every one of our fiscal years, and the fiscal year ends June 30th. So being a 2-year document, it's going to end June 30th, 2022, and will encompass all our major planning tasks, our federal and state funding. It will coordinate the federally funded planning tasks performed by the MPO, HART, and DOT, and it's needed to comply with our federal and state rules for the funding we receive. Also has a new cover from last year, so it might look a little different to you than the other documents I've presented. Next slide, please. Before we jump into what's new for the next 2 years, wanted to do a quick recap of the projects that have been going on the past 2 fiscal years. And fiscal year 19 started actually August, in July 1st, 2018. It's going to end this June 30th. As you know, you've participated with us in our development of our long-range transportation plan. That was a really huge effort on the part of consultants, staff, and our committees. We did a great amount of data analysis, outreach, and documentation, and this document has now been submitted. We also, while we were doing that, worked on air quality benefits of green noise walls. That was a white paper that came through committees. A countywide management study for Vision Zero implementation, community transportation coordinator evaluation, that was for the TD planning, greenways and trails and walk bike feasibility studies. There was also a part 2 to the Hart South Shore Transit Study. We continue to update our health atlas as well. And we also reviewed our multimodal level service methodology. And you've also seen the public participation plan and measures effectiveness report, as well as numerous regional coordination activities. The Brazil and Tampa Bay Transportation Pilot Project was also a project that came through committees last month. Transportation School Study, State of the System Report. It's a lengthy list, but it's a condensed list. Temple Terrace Low Speed Network and the USF Campus Autonomous Vehicle Feasibility Study, and our continued efforts on the Vision Zero Action Plan. And we also do reporting on that quarterly. Next slide, please. So there are a number of projects that are going on right now that will kind of transition into the next year, and that includes our data platform and performance monitoring, as well as our crash data portal. We're working on an equity scorecard for review of projects with Cutter. That's the USF Center for Urban Transportation Research, a lot of you know. The Plant City Transit Feasibility Plan is going on right now and will be moved into the next fiscal year, as well as the Vision Zero Corridor studies for unincorporated Hillsborough County. And we are also working on a summary regional long-range transportation plan document. Next slide, please. So these 6 tasks, I show them every time we show the UPWP because this is where all the work in our work program is done. Task 1 is our management task. So that's where the work program work is done, the grant management and all the state and federal compliance. Task 2 is where many of the projects you just saw reside, everything from ITS to resilience to transit planning to Vision Zero planning, TD planning and corridor studies reside in this task. Task 3 is our 20-year long-range transportation plan and all our data collection activities. So in addition to the long-range plan, this is where all the data portals and traffic counts happen. Task 4 is the transportation improvement plan. That's the 5-year short-term plan that's coordinated with the state transportation improvement plan. Task 5 is our MPO committees, all the great work that's done there, our USF fellowship program, our webinars, newsletters, all the public involvement activities that you see. And Task 6 is our regional coordination. So that's everything from coordinating with TBARTA to other MPOs and with our local jurisdictions. Next slide, please. Wanted to give you a snapshot in the new draft document of what our budget looks like. This is the first 3 columns that you see say PL, that's for planning, STP, that's surface transportation planning, and FTA. That's our federal funding. FTA is Federal Transit Administration. Then CTD represents the Florida Commission for Transportation Disadvantage. That's where our TD planning funds come from. And for the first fiscal year, starting July 1st this year, it's going to be approximately $2.8 million with some funds being carried over from the current year. So some of those carryover projects I talked about, we had to carry the funds over for them as well. And then approximately $2.3 million for the following fiscal year. So that represents all the work that the MPO will do, staff and consulting contracts and all the compliance activities. Next slide, please. This is a snapshot of where the funding resides. So I mentioned the system and quarter planning and long range planning and data collection. It's about 62% of all our tasks. If you add that to our TIP planning, our public participation, and our local and regional coordination, that's 90% of all the work we do, aside from the compliance activities. Just wanted to show you where the money is spent. Next slide, please. So in February and March, we came to all the committees and asked, what project ideas you had and asked that you think about those. And in March, all the committees made some formal motions as to what they would like to see as projects. And this is the summary of what we received. BPAC, this committee asked for best practices for street sweeping and maintenance for bike lane infrastructure. LRC, Livable Roadways Committee, asked for right-size parking calculators and best practices in electric vehicle charging, and to continue audits in the school safety study. as well as the safety park and speed zone study, which has become, very relevant in light of the recent Bayshore accident. CAC had a motion for uniform buffered bike lane standards countywide, and TAC wanted to look at local level projects and do resiliency and vulnerability assessments of the county roadways and to coordinate that with resiliency studies going on already and the planning that's going on in the county. Next slide, please. The jurisdictions in HART also submitted requests. Actually, Hillsborough County did not submit any planning project requests, but the city of Tampa did submit requests for a comprehensive school safety studies, speed management program before and after studies, Vision Zero corridor studies, roadway safety awareness, green infrastructure research and best practices, transportation innovation speaker series, and advanced parking management systems, a feasibility study. Temple Terrace is hoping to include a trail feasibility and alignment study, as well as an update to their multimodal mobility fee. Plant City is reprising their previous year request for a Strawberry Festival Special Use District transportation study, as well as a Canal Connector trail feasibility study. And HART, we have a special HART task section in the task 2 of the work program that's called Transit and Transportation Demand Management. So some of these HART tasks you see are sometimes incorporated into that. So the bus stop inventory assessment, the tri-area circular project, the on-demand downtown circulator, and the CSX rail service study, as well as fare services study and streetcar extension study. Okay, next slide. Sorry. I don't know why, but this is really small on my screen. Sorry, wait, I'm trying to. So as part of the work program, we have a set of projects that we need to do to comply with our federal and state requirements for receiving the grant. And so these critical path projects are about $615,000 of our budget, and this is for our 2-year budget. And they are, data platform. Oops, I'm back to. Okay, that's okay. I can see it well enough. Thank you. Okay, so wait a moment for us to get on the slide we want. So yes, we have a list of projects that are called critical path projects and analysis, and they represent. I'm on the schedule slide right now. So at least that's what I'm seeing. Can we go to slide 10? Okay, thank you. So these critical path projects are data projects, data platform, monitoring, data analytics, smart cities, traffic counts that we have to do in Hillsborough County and City of Tampa. Can we go back to slide 10? As well as the Plant City project, which is moving. Oh, that's one more slide before that. This is slide 11. Oh, there. Oh no, we're in slide 9 now. Sorry. We're moving backwards. Okay, there you go. One more.
Apologies. So slide 10, the jurisdiction and agency project requests. Slide.
No, that's slide.
Slide 10.
Slide 10 is critical path. There you go.
There, sorry
you got it.
I don't know
okay,
why it's doing it strangely.
Yes, this is jumping. So along with this task is also our regional coordination. So as I mentioned, for the 2 years, that's about $615,000 of the budget I showed you. Next slide, please. Okay, so this next slide is some great project requests that we've received. This is in addition to what you saw in the committees and the jurisdictions. And I think the most prominent one in everyone's mind is the I-70 275 Boulevard conversion study. I think Chris mentioned that earlier. And we actually had some preliminary scoping on this project, and it's going to cost up to $1 million. It cannot be any less than 800 from what the consultant is quoting us. So that and the community, there's been a community health impacts for the long-range plan project suggested, as well as updates to the storm evacuation forecast and shelter in place, a freight study that looks at the a freight resiliency pilot project, a multimodal school safety study, a number of trail feasibility studies, electric vehicle facility needs assessment, a Plant City Southeast master plan study, and a Hart bus stop assessment. So we had a scoping, we scoped a cost for the Boulevard study, and then we also looked at what was spent on past projects for the type of projects that we have listed here, and it's totaling about $1.8 million. The challenge for us right now is that we only have about $894,000 left for projects that are not required of us. So we are going to the MPO board next week, and we want to ask board members to look at all the projects that have been requested and give us their top 5 priorities, and so that we can try to figure out what to do with our remaining funds, and then include those in the work program in the draft you see today. So next slide, please. We can come back to this for discussion if you wish. Just want to wrap it up before we talk. So the next slide is what our schedule is. Can you advance to slide 12? Okay. So this month, the draft report that was submitted to Federal Highway Administration in March is going through the committees for some final comments and to have it move forward to the MPO. Federal Highway Administration is also giving us comments, as well as the Department of Transportation, that will be incorporated into the final draft for the MPO. The MPO will adopt this document on May 13th, and it will become effective July 1st and run through June 30th, 2020. Next slide, please. So normally we would ask for a action from the board to move it forward to the MPO, but because we are on video right now, we're asking for comments and any concerns you have, and then to move those comments, we can share those with the board. Is that correct, Wade? Is that the action you're looking for from
Yes,
your
the action
committee?
I'm looking for.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So I'm happy to talk more about this now. Yeah.
Sure. So we'll just open it up for any questions for Allison here on the presentation. And if I could just ask one, the dollars projections are not dependent on any All for Transportation funds. Is that correct?
Right. That's just our typical state and federal allocations. We can't count on the All for Transportation funds right now. That's one of the challenges. I think we wouldn't have any trouble funding all of the potential projects you see, plus some more, if we had those funds.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, there is a Dr. Engelman would like to ask a question, if that's okay with you.
Is that, I'm just trying to think from a rules of order type of thing.
Yes, sir.
I'm not quite sure that can be there, or so I'm asking for a point of order here.
He would like, all he was going to say was if you could mention that my request that Bayshore be added to the agenda for the board meeting next week for their discussion along with the UPWP. That was what he was going to say.
Alrighty. All right, So is there any other questions or comments for Allison by the committee? All righty. Seeing none. Allison, thank you very much.
Thank you. So can we have a, I guess, I don't know, approval to move this forward to the MPO board, if that's not a formal action, but to formally, I guess, at least state on record that we're moving it forward?
I think what we can, yeah, I think, and Wade help me out here, is I think the presentation was, or you provide the presentation to the BPAC committee, you solicited feedback, you secured some feedback, and you will be moving us forward to the MPO in May as you have outlined. Is that a fair assessment? Yeah. And there were no objections by the committee.
Right, and it's the presentation plus the draft document that's available online.
Okay.
Okay.
And there is a link to that document in the agenda. If anybody does have any additional comments after looking at that, they can email me those comments, and we will include those as part of the committee report from this meeting to go to the board along with the UPWP.
Right.
Right. Does that answer your question, Allison?
Yes, that would be great, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you again.
Thank you.
All right. So moving on here, we have let me move this out of the way. Sidewalk Stompers presentation by Emily Hinsdale. I see Emily's joined us by video as well. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the invitation. Obviously, doing this presentation now had a lot more relevance when we had kids actually into school. So we were worried about safe routes to school. We are on hiatus now, but hoping that we are using this time to plan so that when we get back to school, finally, hopefully in August, we can hit the ground running and really be serving our kids well. Go to next slide, please. So Sidewalk Stompers, our mission is to improve student health and safety by increasing the number of student pedestrians through school-based incentive programs, community building, and road safety advocacy. We started our project in 2016 at one school and became a nonprofit in 2018 to be able to better serve many schools. We have a total of 10 partner schools right now and are always looking to grow. Next slide, please. So we have our fancy mission statement, but this is what we actually do. Our goal is to get more kids walking to school, and then we use that data from our walk to school programs to push for building safer routes to school. Seeing where our children are walking and how many are walking, we can help identify where we need extra help. Next slide. Introducing myself, I'm the Sidewalk Stompers president and one of the 5 co-founders. I'm also on the board of Walk Bike Tampa. I'm part of the MPO's Livable Roadways Committee, one of your partner organizations, and I participate in FDOT's Community Traffic Safety Team. That's my contact information. So at the end of this, if you have further questions or want to find out further information, you're welcome to contact me. I am a walker and a biker and a runner. As you can probably see from the picture, I walked my own children to school until they got old enough that I was no longer invited to do so. I grew up walking to school myself and am probably part of the last generation where that was still something that a lot of people did before we started to see the fall off in participation in walking to school. Part of why I enjoyed and pushing walking to school is because it certainly meant a lot for me and my family, and I think that is something that we're looking to replicate for other people. Getting outside, spending time together, and starting that day off in a positive way is, I think, something we'd like to share with the community. The next slide, please. That's why I walk. This is why Sidewalk Stompers walks. So we're working on healthy bodies, Most children do not get that recommended 60 minutes of exercise a day. They may get some recess, they may get teacher-led recess, they may get some PE. That rarely adds up to 60 minutes. They may have after-school sports if they are able to do so, but that usually is not a regular thing happening every day, especially for younger children. So what we're looking to do is include a regular exercise, something that you do all the time, something that becomes part of who you are so that you don't stop doing it when you're an adult leading the more sedentary lifestyle that all of us adults are stuck with. Mental health, a lot of pediatricians will recommend for children who are having a hard time focusing in school, start the day by exercising. This is something that we see in the schools already. Some schools have a morning mile or a morning walking program. We're just working to include that from the community. A healthy environment. I think probably most people in this group have read the studies about the impact of living close to a highway, especially a highway where there's a lot of cars idling. I think a lot of us have seen the data about the kind of health problems people living around our own malfunction junction are experiencing. And yet every morning we have a long line of cars idling outside of school and a long line of cars idling again in the afternoon. And that's what is available for our children to breathe at the school. Healthy communities, what we mean by this is when you are out of a car, you are not in the fun social isolation that we're all enjoying right now. You are communicating with other people. You are walking with friends and neighbors, and you're getting to know people that you might not necessarily have interactions with during the school day or in your neighborhood. So that's why we walk. How we walk is, I believe, the next slide. Walk to School Wednesdays. For our sustainability, we picked one day a week to have an event to try to encourage more participation. This is what the program that we bring to each of our partner schools. Next slide, please. So on Walk to School Wednesday, we ask all of our children at the school to walk with us. This is a rewards-based program. When children arrive at the school, they are rewarded for being there. We offer small prizes, sometimes pencils, sometimes stickers. We also are working toward longer-term rewards, which is especially effective with our younger children. We track the number of children coming in, and we give them rewards like recess baskets that go to the class with the highest level of participation. As part of this, we incorporate support from our school administration and staff. The schools where this is most effective, we do have good administrative support and staff support. In some schools, we're able to have PTA support, and that can mean parent volunteerism, that can mean funding. And then we also include our community partners. We have several hospitals that partner with us to support us with funding and volunteerism and materials. And we also have other businesses in the area that have chosen to participate. The more stakeholders we have, whether it's PTA, administration, or community partners, the more support we have for this program, the more sustainable it becomes. And then we talk about the way that we educate and encourage the children. A lot of this has to do with communication. It's that third aspect of public health, the marketing aspect, reaching out to children, making Walk to School something we talk about, as opposed to just something that those kids over there do. Next slide, please. So our data tracking. This is an important component of our program because it helps show our progress. We have volunteers at each of these schools, and I'll get into who the volunteers are in a moment. Each volunteer will have a data tracking sheet, and you see a small sample of one here to the side. It's pretty small, but what you see on each line is a different teacher listed for this particular school. As the child comes in, the volunteers just do a hash mark, and that's how you count how many kids are in each classroom. Total up the number for the day, total up the number of teachers. So the children coming in individually will get some small prizes periodically. Gasparilla, we handed out beads. It doesn't take that much to get little guys excited. For the classes, this is what we use these tally sheets for. We count the number of teachers, and each month we reward the classroom with the most walkers with a basket of toys. These are recess toys to continue the active education that we work with. We have bouncy balls and jump ropes and hula hoops and things like that that the teachers can use during teacher-led PE. And then at the end of the school year, the class with the overall highest performance, the most walkers all school year, we hand out that Stomping Cup trophy. At one of our schools, and we were planning for a few other schools this year, the Lightning Thunderbug comes and presents the trophy, and it's a big ceremony and big event, and the children get very excited about seeing that Thunderbug and getting their trophy. And these rewards, we hope, will keep the children focused on where they want to go and how they want to get there. Next slide, please. So this is, we are doing the data tracking. This is the data from our initial school, Roosevelt Elementary. It was a school chosen simply because most of us had children there at that time. As you can see, we had a pretty quick increase. It slows down as some of the years go by, but we do add a few more kids every year. One of the things we are seeing at that particular school is that each new class that comes, each new kindergarten class has more walkers. So it grows starting with the youngest people. Next slide, please. These are some of our additional partner schools. This is just an average number of walkers. Some of these schools have small events, some of them have big. Some of them we start with 5 kids and hope that we get 6 the next time. Just making sure that we value each kid who is walking and biking in. Next slide, please. So here we have some pictures of our prizes, our encouragement. This is one of our winning classes at Broward Elementary. They have a bunch of soccer balls and basketballs. We have the stickers that we offer and the hula hoops, jump ropes, sidewalk chalk. And then one of our schools, you can see, instead of a Stomping Cup trophy, does a golden sneaker trophy. And they take that around to a classroom each week and award it each week to the class with the most walkers. Yeah, these kinds of ceremonies just keep the kids involved and excited. Next slide. So how we can support each of these schools. Every school in Hillsborough County is going to have different needs. Some schools are very big, some are smaller, some are in quiet neighborhoods where it's relatively easy to walk, and some are on pretty dangerous roads and through dangerous neighborhoods. Some communities already have a lot of walkers, and some have very few, and different reasons for why that is. So we have several different ways we modify the program to try to fit each school. The Walk to School Wednesday idea is something we do at pretty much every school, but there are different ways we can adjust it to meet their needs. So we have a walking school bus, and that's the picture you can see there with the bear. This is something that Mabry Elementary did, and their issue here is that they have a lot of children who are in residential areas who would like to walk to school, but have to cross some pretty dangerous roads to get there. So they choose to do a walking school bus so that they are in a very large group to cross the street. They cross Bay to Bay and Henderson. So those are 4-lane roads, and Bay to Bay does not, for Mabry Elementary, have a crosswalk that has a light. So you have to take your chances crossing Bay to Bay in the morning. So having a group of about 30 people that they walk with regularly, that walking school bus has made a big difference for them. The Walk to School Parade, this is something we started at Broward Elementary. They had a difficult time getting children to understand the purpose of walking to school, and it wasn't something that was being very easily communicated to parents. So we started a parade from a park that is close to the school. It's, I believe, 2 blocks away. And the children would show up at the park in the morning, they'd play on the playground equipment, and they were so excited to be there that walking to school just became part of the parade as opposed to transportation. became a fun activity. The road safety program is something we do at our middle school and would like to take to magnet schools. This is a program that focuses on areas where the need is more how are kids walking and biking rather than whether they are walking and biking. So middle school, many kids are walking and biking by themselves. So we're trying to reinforce some pedestrian safety skills. Wear a bike helmet and cross at the light, wait for a crossing guard, things like that. Each student on a Wednesday morning who follows the rules crossing the road is rewarded with a piece of candy or some other small item. We do have some raffle tickets too to hand out bigger items. That kind of immediate reward fits the middle schoolers' need for instant gratification a little bit better. The elementary kids are more willing to wait for their awards. We also try to do different kinds of safety education. We have brochures and information that we put out with pedestrian safety skills. I know that slide shows up really small, but that's a list of pedestrian safety skills that kids can do. One of our partner schools, Carrollwood Elementary, was planning a whole safety day where they were going to have police come out to the school and set up a track to show kids how to walk and bike and what the rules are, just like a pretend city street inside the school. That unfortunately is not going to happen this spring, but we're hoping we can do that next year. We also, one of our partners is St. Joseph's Children's, and they provide an education course on walking and biking that they take to different schools. And so we try to follow behind them with our programs so that the children that we're talking to already have learned a lot of these safety rules. Do the next slide, please. So these are our core values for our program, and we try to instill this into all of our programs. Our business partners are donors, volunteers, and partnerships, administrators, PTAs, local businesses. We rely on donors for funding and the business partnerships for funding. This provides all of the prizes. Some of our schools have PTAs that can afford prizes. Some of our schools don't. So having the hospitals work with us to provide the prizes has made it feasible at some schools. We also depend on volunteers to do all of the data tracking. Some schools, as you know, there's student volunteerism. The 5th grade students, those are some from Pride Elementary School pictured there. They call themselves the student ambassadors, and they take charge of the checking in. This is an ideal arrangement. They are responsible in 5th grade. They are ready to take on a job, and it's a great opportunity for the older students, the 5th graders, to interact with the little guys. And it's wonderful to watch a little kindergartner come in and the look of excitement on their face when a 5th grader says, "Did you walk today?" and recognize them and knows their name. It's a nice interaction that you don't get to have a lot around the school. So we depend on the students. We also have other community volunteers. We have some neighborhood associations that have partnered with us to provide volunteers, and that's something I'd like to see grow going forward. We keep working on our road safety education, trying to reinforce pedestrian skills and rules on the road for all of our kids, and share that information frequently with parents and students, and then throughout the school year. And then, of course, we focus on advocacy. If we go to the next slide. This is kind of the second half of what we've done. Once we've gotten the kids walking to school, we need to overcome the impediments to getting more kids walking to school. And the key one is, do they feel safe enough? And in a lot of Tampa, they really don't, because there are not adequate safe routes to school. We have focused mostly on short-term wins. While we do have some really long-term goals like sidewalks on every street, especially in school areas, that's a big goal out there, and it's going to take a lot of funding and a lot of time. So we work really much harder on the short-term wins because we don't want to wait until the kids who are in kindergarten now to be in 5th grade for them to have a safe route to school. We want to see what we can get right now. If we go then, actually, I'll just point it out in this slide. So the crosswalk where the girls are on the bicycle, that was not there before we asked for it. And the signage that has gone in there has gotten a lot better. There's this additional paint that has gone down in that road. And that took one meeting with the city of Tampa and a couple of follow-up emails and happened within a few months. So the kids have a safer crossing right away rather than waiting for years. The other photo is of a 4-way stop that was put in adjacent to the school. It's 1 block from the school. Again, something that did not take us years to get done. They responded to our needs and recognized that we had a need right now. The next slide. So these are some of the things we asked for: crosswalks, new ones, enhanced ones, school zone signage, better walk signals at lights, more 4-way stops. Pictured on the bottom corner is an area near Coleman Middle School. And I put this one in here because we consider this one of our bigger successes. There have now been 2 4-way stops put in and another one on the horizon. The paint was put in the road. There's lots of new paint that went in that completely changed the flow of traffic around the school in the morning for pickup and drop off and made it a much safer location for the kids. We've seen fewer risky incidents going on there. And this is something we did with the help of the city of Tampa and the MPO School Transportation Working Group. And this is one of the reasons that we promote that school safety study, because we've seen this happen at one of our schools very effectively. The next slide. These are our partner schools. We work with all of them to some extent. Some have very large and vigorous programs. Pride Elementary School has a walk to school program every day. They're tracking data every single day. Most of them are weekly. Couple of them are monthly. We work to find new ways to support them each year and hope to get more in the future. Next one. So as I said, we're looking to grow. These are the things that we are focusing on for our growth in the future years. Big emphasis is on sidewalks for us. That's something we continue to advocate for on many levels. We want to see a new city sidewalk plan. I understand that one is in the works, and we'll be keeping a close eye on that to make sure more of our kids get sidewalks. Next one, please. Our immediate plans for the next school year, identifying additional partner schools. This is where a lot of you can come in if you have contacts at specific schools. We would love to get in front of them. It takes a sit-down meeting with the administration because we don't want to do anything at the school without administrative support. Administrative support can sometimes be a little hard to come by. There's quite a few principals that still think the best way for a kid to get to school is in a car, and because that's something that they can more easily control. We also plan to work on growing our volunteer opportunities. Specifically, we'd like to be working with older children, supporting the younger children. I'd like to see this grow into a project that high school students and middle school students could use as service hours, participating in the elementary school walk to school programs before their school starts, so they are available. I think that'd be a really good interaction and a program I'd like to get going in the next school year. We are, of course, always working on fundraising, but that is my least favorite part. We are looking for more private donors, individual donors, and more business partnerships to be able to support more of our schools. Advocacy, that is the part that I enjoy. You know, right now, I'm sure there are some people in the city of Tampa who weren't thrilled about all of the press that I did about opening Bayshore. But overall, I think we have a great working relationship with the city of Tampa and great working relationship with Hillsborough County. And we'll be able to see some of our ideas rolling out in the next few years. We argue for building out safe community infrastructure and especially sidewalks. We'd like to see these built out using the schools as a kind of hub and growing sidewalk routes and safe walking routes in different directions from each school so that every school in our city and county have multiple safe walking routes to school. We need to protect our youngest users of our roads, and I think this should be a primary focus for our community. Traffic crash is the most likely way for a child to die. Hopefully that remains how it is right now. We would like to see this be something that we are working on harder as a community. Last slide. That is my presentation. Thank you for listening. I was just going to add that, obviously we're kind of sidelined right now since we can't go to school. What we've been working on in the meantime is a sidewalk stompers bingo card. So if you have young people at your house and want to find our sidewalk stompers bingo card, it's a whole list of different kind of physical activity that kids can participate in. So that's on our Facebook page. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you, Emily. Is there any questions for Emily concerning the Sidewalk Stompers program? A question I had, Emily, is so we just have the one middle school. What's preventing us from, or from your group, from getting into the other middle schools and perhaps even a high school?
Just connection, getting to know people at the school. If you have connections at that school, it's easy for me to work with that middle school since I've had a child there. I will be moving on to the high school next, but if you have people at a middle school that you'd like to connect with, I would like to bring that program to other middle schools.
And if anybody on this committee's got those connections, they can get in touch with you through the program.
Yes, I would think particularly some of the middle schools that these elementary schools feed to would be logical steps.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Sally there with a question?
Sally, you need to unmute yourself.
I unmuted. You should be good.
Am I unmuted now?
You're good.
Yes.
Hello. Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay. Have you talked to any private schools?
No, we haven't. We would be open to working with private schools. I think we focused on public schools because for most of the public schools, the children live within the school area. So most of our private schools will be drawing children from longer distances. I do think it'd be worth working for schools that know that they have a lot of students that live in the area. And again, open to any connections. I have presented to the Hillsborough County School District PE teachers, and I got some feedback from that, but what it takes is a personal connection, somebody who wants to champion it at their school. I have a couple of PE teachers that have taken it on to champion it, guidance counselors, teachers, administrators, PTA. So find somebody at that school who would be open to this and we can get it going.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Emily. This is Diana.
Hi.
We have talked about getting into the advisory committee for Safe Routes to School.
Yes.
I think I talked to you on the phone, right? Remember
yes,
me?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we had a bunch of meetings set up at different schools through Safe Routes to School that aren't happening right now.
Yeah, but we're working on it to do something similar to what we're doing right now here. We're going to do, hopefully before the end of the month, a virtual meeting for each school. I just wanted to talk to the committee and letting them know that you've been participating in the Hillsborough Safe Routes to School Advisory Committee that we are creating for each school as we go through each school and analyze the needs for safe walking routes. For walking and bikes, we call it rolling more because right now we have bicycles and all kind of rollers, all kind of wheels the children use now. And I like to thank you for being a champion in this program, and look forward to meet you and work with you in the following schools.
Thank you. Me too.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Emily? Okay then, well, thank you very much again for your time.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night.
You too.
All right, so moving on here, we have the THEA project update and PD&E advance notification for Whiting Street and Washington Street extensions and the Selman Expressway ramps reconfiguration.
Hello.
So Wade, who is presenting for that?
Anna Quinones, can you hear us, Anna? I unmuted you. Anna, can you hear us? Well, Anna is on. I'm not sure. She must not be able to hear us for some reason.
Yeah, it shows that she's unmuted.
Yes. Anna, if you are there and can hear us, oh, it says you're unmuted. Yes, I see your comment there, but we're not able to hear you. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know. I'm very sorry about that. We may have to. Anna is going to try to call in if we just give her a second.
Okay.
Oh, and Anna, I'm trying to make you a presenter. That may help you do it. Gina, I'm sorry, I may have unmuted you also. And
We can see Gina.
All right, well, I apologize, but I don't know why that doesn't seem to be working, but we may just want to move forward. Sorry, Anna. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll just have to try again in the future.
All right, the last thing I can offer from a technology is if we are working off of a headset, sometimes we have the headset muted, and that's preventing us from going through. So I don't know if we have to check that as well. And Annette says she needs a pin.
Shoot. Let's see. Can you turn off your computer audio if possible, Anna, because it will then show the phone. Right now I can only see the computer audio itself. Let me. Hold on 1 second. Let me check one more thing. No, it's not working in there either. It says you're self-muted, Anna. Will you try one more time? I'm not sure we're going to be able to do it, but okay. Well, oh, thank you, Beth. Hold down, phone call. Anna, did you see Beth's comments in the chat box? If you go to the audio pull down and click on the phone call, it should give you a pin. Currently, it's probably on computer audio. Okay. Well, I guess that isn't going to work. Anyway, apologies, everyone. I guess we'll just have to move forward without that. Anna, in the thing, there should be several in the panel that has all of the information. There should be an audio with a little triangle to the left of it, if you can see that. And you would have to put that arrow so it's facing down, which would give you the choices for computer audio or phone call. Okay. Well, I guess that's just not going to happen today. I'm sorry, everyone. It does not seem to be working. So, Mr. Chair, I guess that moves us forward to our next item, which is FBA cannot be here, so it would be old and new business, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. So then let's let me get back to the agenda here. So let me go back here. So moving on here, is there any old or new business that we need to revisit or address at this time?
Jonathan, it's Jamie.
Hey, Jamie, how are you?
Good, how are you guys doing?
Doing well, thank you.
So I guess for circling back, I know Sally had commented and I saw another comment within the chat when we first started regarding Dr. Engelman's suggestions. And I'm wondering if we can, I know we're not making motions today or anything, but make sure it's on our list to, I think you mentioned a speed study or something that Bayshore could be added to. Do we need to, I guess I'm not sure how we, without being able to like make motions since we're not face to face, but not lose sight of making sure that can happen or get brought up to the board?
Jamie, we can certainly add that as a comment from the board during this meeting. Whether it's the speed study or any additional measures you all would like to let the board know that that you might want to take on this?
Okay, so people are chatting. So John Marsh asked, do we know the last time Bayshore had a speed study? I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know the answer.
Was it a part of the task force?
They might have done it during the design for the current changes and for lowering the speed from 40 to 35. That was already in the works as part of a previous study, but I'm not sure what went into that. Maybe Stephen can tell us more. I don't know if he can or not.
The other thing, Jamie, is for the others, refresh my memory as well. Did we not a few months ago, after the last fatality on the path, did we not ask or make a motion to the MPO regarding a facility or a safer streets design or an impact study to consider more of the totality versus just isolating to one location?
That would have been.
Yeah, I'd have to pull it up.
Meeting.
Because that issue may have been raised already to the MPO.
It's come up here and there, unfortunately, usually after we have a fatality or other tragic events to the MPO on multiple occasions. But if the committee would like to pass along additional comments related to Bayshore, we can certainly do that.
Hey, sorry, this is Steven. I was trying to figure out how to unmute myself. Can y'all hear me?
Who? Yeah. I'm sorry, who?
Stephen Benson.
This is Steven with
Steven.
the City of Tampa.
Hey, Steven, how are you?
Good. Yeah, we did conduct speed studies in 2012. We collected speed data, rather, in 2012, 2019, and then again in 2020. Based upon the various improvements that have been done over the years, the greatest reductions that we saw were between the 2012 and 2019 timeframe. It was up to a 7 mile per hour difference or reduction. But I'm sure those of you that have been around that long and have been paying attention that long, know that the section north of Swan used to be 6 lanes. That was reduced to 4 about a decade ago. RFBs have been installed at about a dozen locations. A lot's been done, but there is still a lot more that we would like to do. And I think that was mentioned earlier about the additional intersections that we're looking to signalize and having some conversations with the county about that right now, Euclid and also Rome. The idea would be that those would be temporary, meaning that we could get them installed faster than having to do permanent ones. They're not going to be as pretty. They're temporary signals are typically on like wood poles with span wires, and they're not the galvanized steel that you normally see. So that's just one of a couple different things that that we're looking at, but that should help to at least break up some of the long stretches where people are not having to stop. So the idea is that we would install a couple more traffic signals and then adjust the signal timing so that they were planned stops rather than progression, which is like the green wave. So we would artificially time the signals to force people to have to stop at multiple points. But aside from that, the tools in the toolbox are not very effective when people are behaving in a manner that is outside of what is legally allowed. So a lot of the crashes that have occurred have been people that are going above the posted speed. So reducing the posted speed isn't necessarily going to address that issue. So we are considering that, though. We're considering everything, but any support that the committee wants to offer is definitely welcome. Any support and any ideas.
All right, thank you, Stephen. Those are valid comments, and thank you very much again for kind of giving us a little bit more of that background there. So I would ask, and I think Sally would like to make a comment. And Sally, you're muted.
1 second, I will unmute you, Sally. You should be unmuted.
Okay, thank you. If we recommended the temporary stoplights, how quickly could that be and how temporary would that be? Hello?
I can't speak to how quick. Yeah, I can't speak to how quickly they would be installed. I know it would be much quicker than a typical intersection or a typical traffic signal. And when I say temporary, that doesn't mean that it's going to be removed. It means that it's temporary until a permanent one could be installed. When they call it temporary, they don't have to meet the same standards as a permanent signal, because the permanent signals have to be on a mast arm. If it's within 3 miles of the coast, it has to meet the hurricane standards. That's why they take so long to build. So the temporary ones you can get up quicker, and that's what we've been directed is the goal in this situation.
Okay, Stephen, we thank you. We had another thing in the chat room. Richard's asked, have signal warrant studies been done for these locations?
I believe the warrant study for Euclid's been done. We're working on the one for Rome right now.
Okay. So then, is it kind of from a summarization perspective with the situation that we have where we are with video and audio, is it safe to say then on behalf of the group then we're just asking the MPO to consider these additional measures as discussed by Stephen?
I would recommend that.
Okay. Any objections to kind of making that part of our comments for the MPO to consider?
One thing just to ask about, Stephen, Richard Rank asks on the chat if signal warrant studies have been done at these locations in the past.
He just responded.
Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't see that.
Yeah.
Thank you. I can't see the response. What do you know? Anyway, thank you very much.
All right. We're learning, guys. We're learning as we go. Okay. All right. Any other further comments then?
Are our comments going to include another speed study, or is it just it's been too new since they did it between 2012 and 2019? I mean, I guess has it been done since they reduced the speed limit to 35? Is my question.
Yeah, we did one in 2020, and
okay.
There was not a significant reduction. The biggest reduction was from that 2012 to 2019 timeframe. And as soon as that information is finalized, we can distribute it to you guys in the next agenda if that's helpful.
I think that would be helpful, and thank you again for the offer there. Okay. Jamie, you're all set with that, with your question and comments?
I'm good, yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wanna chime in here? Okay, then Wade, so it looks to me that we'll have to revisit the THE project update as well as the Florida bicycle legislation update.
Yes, the Florida Bicycle Association, they do want to still come back, but hopefully once we can all meet in person. And we will work with Anna to see if we can have the Expressway Authority back for a future meeting.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, this has certainly been interesting, folks, navigating through this. So I think we can go ahead and move for adjournment if that's appropriate.
Or if there are no objections.
If there are no objections, there we go. I'm
And
sorry,
thank you all
Wade.
for your patience with this. It is a learning experience for all of us.
All righty. Well, then we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting, and thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.